Hello everybody, welcome back to BareRose Garage. What are we doing today? Well, I'm out here in my 1985 little Jimmy, and I watched a video yesterday on a subject that I absolutely adore. It was a subject put out by Uncle Tony's Garage. I highly recommend you go take a look at his video on this. I'm just going to cover a little bit more, and I'm not going to say Uncle Tony is wrong. A lot of the stuff that he's explaining to you in that is very complicated, and some of it is just flat muscle memory after you've done this for a while. The art of speed shifting, power shifting. I always call it power shifting because that's what it is. It's keeping you in power band all the way through the RPM spectrum, all the way down the track, no matter what it is you're doing. No matter what kind of track it is, either a road race, a drag race, or just having fun out on the street. Anyway, I'm just going to elaborate a little bit more on what Uncle Tony had to say there. Again, I am not saying he's wrong. I just, well, when I watched his video, I'm watching his body language, and I can tell he's leaving, his mouth is leaving out a little bit about what his body's actually trying to teach you in there. So I'm just going to reiterate a little bit on that because banging gears is fun. So I got to show you in this little one because it's the only one I got left that is standard that is supposed to run. But, well, I blew a head gasket in it, so it don't run right now. But I can walk you through this scenario, everything. Okay, so the first thing you need to learn on the art of power shifting is it's real simple. It's called the preload. Okay, right here you can see my feet. Full disclaimer, I got my work boots on, so this is going to be a little bit harder to do. Eddie. Yes, we got Eddie the inspector in here trying to help me. He really wants me to show you how to do this. And as you can tell by my pedals here, the way the pedals are wore, you can tell that, yeah, it's been done a few times in this one. Okay, the first thing you need to do, like I said, is called the preload. So you get up and you do exactly as Uncle Tony said. Okay, you bring it up on RPM. Okay, you're pushing the gas pedal down. But there's a little trick to that. You take the toe of this foot, you push down, and you reach over with your heel on the brake right there. Okay, and you set your heel just about like that. Usually I'm using my cons, my Chuck Taylor cons for this, because boy, they work good. Anyway, you lock the brake down with your heel and you use your toe here for the throttle. These stiff boots are hard to do this with. Okay, just like that. I got the brake set and I got my throttle. I'm working with the throttle right there. You can see. Now you push the clutch in, put it in first gear. Okay, you ready to do your burnout? Watch the tack. Right here, bring that tack up to about, well, this is a little 2.8, so its red line is clear over here at 5,500. Why? Because a 2.8 ain't got no torque, so you got to have them things a spinning to get anything out of them. Let's say on this one, you bring it up wherever, 3.5. Okay, when you get up to about 3.5 there, you slowly ease the clutch, like I'm doing right there. You just slowly ride it out until you feel the car will kind of go, and it'll crouch up like a crouching tiger, or that damn cat that's trying to explain this to you. Ease that clutch out just a little bit till you'll feel the rear end grab a hold, and everything becomes angry. It's ready to go. What you're doing there is you're actually preloading all of your suspension. You're taking all the slack out of everything. Now, every single rear end, every single transmission, whether it's brand new or on its way out, it's so wore out, will always have a little bit of slop in it. Every gear mesh will have a little bit of slop. Well, when you're doing this, you don't want any slop anywhere. And that's what you're doing with the clutch right there. You're loading everything, so you're not going to shock anything when the fun comes. So, you've got it preloaded. Foot on the brake. toe on the gas, okay? You're locked in, you're ready to go. Bring that clutch out just a little bit. Now, you can sidestep it. There is times that I do sidestep the clutch. But generally speaking, what I'll do is I'll sidestep it this way. I slip my foot off straight, like that. And just let the clutch come up. Actually, my toe is a little farther down on it. About like that, okay? Very rarely do I just sidestep like that and let the clutch out, because that's a hard shock. Sometimes I do. It depends on track conditions. It depends on where I'm at, where I'm doing, and what I'm doing with it. But 9 times out of 10, I'll just roll that clutch off this way. See how it takes a little more time and gives that clutch a little bit of ease coming off, even though it's lightning fast, super quick. By rolling it off your toe this way, it's a softer launch, if you want, if you will. Anyway, you get her burning, okay? You're already here, so you're not going to double shock it like Uncle Tony was saying there. If you're trying to double foot it like this, you got too much going on. Okay, you come up to the brake, you hit it. You start your if you start to try your preload, by the time you're over here, you know, it's too complicated. You just double foot it like this. That eliminates all of that. You bring it up on RPM, preload it a little bit. You can see there, I bring the clutch out just a little bit where she starts to grab. I feel the rear end and everything in the truck here grab a hold, and everything's ready to go. I step down this way. Brings my foot right back in line, so when I launch, all I got to do is just drop my heel off that brake and let that brake come up. That foot, just like Uncle Tony was saying, never ever leaves the floor. My foot comes back up and it's ready for the clutch again. All I do is just toe it. You see my foot? It's barely touching that clutch pedal right there. All I do is just bump that clutch like that. Now everything else he was saying in that video is spot on. The way you roll into the clutch, a little bit. The way he's describing it to you, that's the way I shift, or it's more the way I shift like a top loader or a Muncie. I'll shift them more like what he's talking about. Now a T5, which is probably going to be the transmissions you guys are trying this with, because a top loader and a Muncie, they're getting a little harder to find and they're a little expensive, and you just don't run out and buy a junk car with a top loader in it in general. And if you do, it's probably a car you don't want to be doing this with unless you're stupid like me. Anyway, but a difference, a little bit of a difference that I use on the T5 that has served me very well and kept me from breaking stuff. I raced one of these like this. That was it was a Mazda, little Mazda rotary, and I raced the hell out of that thing. It had a rear end in it that was ready to come out. When we started the first season, we knew that rear end wasn't going to last, but it still worked then, so drive it until it breaks, right? Following these easy steps on this power shifting, well, I got 2.5 years out of that rear end before it finally went. And it had a lot of slop in it, and I never once heard it. For one, I preloaded it like I just showed you, and I punished that poor thing after that. But because I'm following this way, I never hurt the rear end until 2.5 years later, which didn't bother me none because it was ready to come out when we first started with it. I just happened to get a few more runs out of it than I thought I was going to. Anyway, how I shift. Here we go. And again, that one had something similar, I guess you'd call to a T4, because it was only a 4-speed. Okay, first of all, I only run with a ball. Now, it has to do with the way I hold it. I generally hold it with just 2 or 3 fingers, just like these 2 or 3 fingers for my first shift. I'm just holding it light like this. Okay, and I already showed you how to flick the clutch. When I'm ready to shift it, again, I'm not putting Uncle Tony down in any sort of way, but my shift is, I'm still doing the follow through and all that stuff, but it's only that much. I'm still trying to pull it down through, but my fingers are too weak to break that shifter off. So I'm just like that. See how my fingers just slip right off of that. Let me see if I can get that back in frame there. Got you guys sitting up here on the passenger seat as I'm trying to show you here. There we go. Maybe you can see it a little better there. Okay, I'm just fingering it. I'm just holding it with my fingers right here. When it comes time to shift, you just bump that clutch and let her go. I'm still doing my follow through, but I don't have enough strength in my fingers to break that shifter off. If I'm holding it like this, it's why I hate T shifters, the T handle shifters, because I tend to muscle up on them. If I hold it, if I've got a grip on it, and this takes practice, because sometimes you'll get excited and you'll do it without thinking. But if you grab a hold of that like this, when you bump it, oh man, I could feel it right there as I just did it. It's putting massive force on that little ball. Here in a minute, I'll take you into the shop and show you what that shifter actually looks like when it's pulled out, and you'll see why I don't like doing that. Anyway, I just use those 3 fingers because I don't have enough strength in them fingers when I'm excited and everything that I'm going to break that shifter off. I'm just holding it loose in the claw of them 3 fingers like that, and then when I bump it down, see, and it just flips out of my hand, no problem. Now to do the upshift, I'm doing the same thing, but I just put it in the palm of my hand, like right here. Same thing, it's just like that. I don't have enough force like that to break that shifter off. And then 4th gear is exactly like going from 1st to 2nd. You just bump that clutch, down it goes, and I'm just flicking it, just flick it past. I don't care if I hit the console with my fingers. If I'm muscled up on it though, that shifter literally will come off in your hand, and then you're pulling a transmission, and these T5s, they're not as easy to rebuild. Okay, so that's the basic run through of how I power shift. Once you get this down packed, you can also do this on the downshift when you're road racing, rally racing, off-roading. It's where I learned it, is because a lot of off-road here in Idaho, and well, we drive our stuff hard. And when you're climbing a good steep hill, especially with a low horsepower engine that we were stuck with in the 70s and 80s, you got to nail that downshift. And you can do this same method shifting down as well. That takes a lot more practice though, and be careful with it, because you will break stuff. There is no way of getting around breaking stuff, but there's ways to minimize your breakage. And like I said, the preload, which I can see Uncle Tony's body doing in those videos. So if you watch Uncle Tony and don't listen to what he says, he's actually teaching you more than what he's trying to teach you to say, which I get, because there's a lot of stuff with these videos to try to figure out. You know, you're trying to convey as much knowledge as you possibly can in a short amount of time, and this is a complicated subject. Anyway, that's a little short quick on how I power shift and how I have been able to keep my stuff alive a little longer. Again, you will break stuff, just how to minimize your breakage. And it's all down to that preloading your whole system, your whole drivetrain, by easing that clutch out a little bit while you're under brake and you're working the gas at the same time. My biggest thing is you either have race shoes, which are designed for that, or Converse. Chuck Taylor Cons. There's a reason that every hot rodder uses them, because back in the day, those were the easiest to double foot off of like that, or heel toe like that. Anyway, they're real flexible, they're real small. When I set up a car, well, let's go over to the shop and I'll explain to you more about the differences between the transmissions and how I set my car up if I'm looking to do manual, grabbing gears, have some fun. All right, did we get that right, Eddie? Did we? I know it was a Ford. It wasn't a Ford we were in. I know you love them Fords. Should we go over here and show them how to do this right or wrong? What do you think? What do you think, little man? I don't know. Okay, we're back in the shop here, as you can see, and it just so happens that I'm setting this 58 right here up for a top loader. Ford top loader, rock crusher, whatever you want to call them, manual 4-speed. I'd show you inside the car, but it's kind of dark, but it just so happens I've got a 3-speed sitting right here, and it's almost identical. On these, unlike the modern transmissions, the linkages and the shift forks are right here. On this one, it just so happens to be a 3-speed. 4-speed just has another one of these right here for the extra gear, and they're a little bit longer. Like I said, you can see it back in there if it wasn't so daggum dark in there. Anyway, that second one over here is for reverse. Anyway, skip through that. On this, everything is exposed out here. You have your shift arms that come off here. They hook onto a linkage that comes over to your shifter, and then your shifter determines which one of those rods and which one of these it's going to turn for which gear you want to be in. Now they call it a top loader because you can see the plate to drop all the gears and everything in is up here on top. So you drop the gears in through the top. Pretty simple, right? In my opinion, these are beyond simple to work on. You can take this out of the car, throw it on the bench, have it rebuilt, and then slap back in the car in about 20 minutes if you're really good at it. Completely, totally 100% rebuilt. And you don't have to take it completely out of the car. You see right here, it's only held on by 4 bolts. It connects it to the bell housing. All you got to do is pull these shift levers off, boom, boom, which is super simple. They're easy to come off. Pull your speedometer out. For those of you who don't know, Ford used the same speedometer gear setups forever. That's a purple one. And generally speaking, there's 3 colors. And the 2 colors that you usually need are pink and white. But they use the same gears forever. That 58, I could probably stick a 85 speedometer gear on it, and it's the same daggum one. Anyway, drop the U-joint off there, just pull it out, and that whole thing, just this much of the transmission comes out. Now you've seen me in my videos and stuff. I'm a little guy, but even me, I can lift that transmission up and set it into place and pull it out and set it in place and never have to use a jack. Why? Because I'm only taking the transmission part of it out. The clutch, everything stays intact on the car. I don't have to undo no bell housing bolts, nothing. Just those 4 main bolts on the transmission, it comes off and jink, I'm done. And I can slap it right back in. Don't have to worry about lining the clutch up, none of that. Whammo bammo, have it back together. That's why I love the top loader. Now a Muncie is, you've heard about the famous Muncie. It's a lot the same, except for they're a side loader. This is here. So all of that comes off on a Muncie, and you put the gears in this way. A little bit harder to do, but, and technically well, there's viewpoints both ways. A lot of people will say a rock crusher Ford top loader is stronger, but I think that the top loader is actually stronger because they're all cast iron. Muncie's went aluminum, so they're a little lighter, and actually the gears inside of a Ford, I'd have to pull it out, and the actual top loader, this is a 3-speed, are a lot bigger than a Muncie. A Muncie are a little bit smaller. Granted, you get less parasitic loss with a Muncie. Fords do take a little bit extra power to turn them, but that's what it is with all Fords. Fords are built Ford tough, but yeah, because of that, they pull a little more power to turn all of that rock hard, solid, good, durable stuff. Yes, Fords take a little of your horsepower, a little bit more of your torque than the others, but they last longer. And for me, that makes it very well worth it. Another thing is, I can get a bell housing for this, for the rock crusher in there, the top loader. I can get a bell housing for that to put this transmission on a Chevy. I can put this transmission on a Ford. I can put it on a Mopar. All you got to do is just get the right bell housing for it. So my point is, I should point it down in here under the actual one. That's the top loader. I can put that transmission in any make or model. They're very, very, very simple because they have a lot of aftermarket support. Which is the other good thing about the top loader Ford. They make them things, the gear ratios in them, in 1,001 different combinations. Any gear ratio, any span between gears, because they make so many of them, you can pick and choose whatever combination you want in our top loader. A Muncie too, but you get into the other ones, like the Saginaw's and that, you get a little limited on what kind of gears you can put in it. So it's harder to play with the gear ratio. But I prefer the top loader Ford for those reasons. I can rebuild them super quick, and they're light enough that little bitty me can crawl under a car, pull the transmission, set it on a bench, rebuild it, and stick it back under the car, and I don't even have to use a jack to do it. It's light enough that I can pull it out, and you can too. So that's that part. And then you heard me talk about the T5 just a little bit earlier. So where's that? Where's that sit in the spectrum? Right here, I got the mighty T5. I got one out. This one's actually came out of a 4.3 V6, and the reason I latched right a hold of it is because the 4.3 V6 has the same bell housing as a big block or small block Chevy. So I can put this transmission to any V8 small block Chevy or big block. Yeah, I got to be careful with the big block because big block's got a lot of torque and it probably rip that thing to pieces. But any small block, I can overdrive it. Now, the way these work is it's all internal. There we go, get that up and out of the way. That boot out of the way. In here is a rod that goes down, and you got two shift forks that run right here. The direction that you put that shifter over here, it grabs one rod, throws it up, throws it down, okay? That's what's moving them gears in and out. Well, you can see, first of all, it's an aluminum case, so it's not a very strong case. They're good for a driver. Oh, a driver, you'll never, ever, ever hurt one. But you start banging gears on them, well, I can show you over here. Granted, it's not a T5 shifter, but it's the same principle. There we go. This is basically what's down inside of that hole. These shifters look like this. There we go. The shifter looks kind of like this. Goes down on that one little piece right there that operates them shift forks. No, not shift forks, shift rods. Goes down in there like that and rocks them shifting rods around. And it puts all that force, there we go, on that ball right there. Well, you get to banging gears and you'll break that ball right out of the case there, and this shifter will come out in your hand. So if you're doing that with a T5, like I was saying earlier in that, because I actually learned how to speed shift on this style and power shift on this style. Keep a light hand on it. Don't muscle up on that. And if you can, stay away from the T-handles or the pistol grip. The pistol grip for sure. I find myself muscling up way too much on a pistol shift, and you'll break them big time. Even the indestructible rock crusher, you'll crush it with them pistol grips. They're garbage. Don't use them. They look good though. So how does the side loader ones like that or the top loaders work? Well, I just so happen to have a shifter here, and you can see I got a ball on it because I like the ball. Keeps me from breaking these down here because my fingers will slip off of a ball. If it's a T-handle, I'll grab a hold of it. If it's a pistol, yeah, I'm definitely going to break everything down here, and I'm going to bend rods, and yeah, bad things are going to happen. Anyway, you can see they are robust. Big, heavy, thick steel. And all it is these two legs. Let's see. These two legs that come down, depending on what gear you're in, that's first and second right there. And let's see if I can find neutral on this thing. It's hard to do when it's not mounted in the car. I gotta set the camera down to do this. Once they're mounted, you're not fighting it like this. But anyway, when it comes to neutral, all it is a big heavy pin in there, right here. When you work that shifter, hey, go figure, I just found neutral. Right there, see it moves the other leg. So that'd be third and fourth. Till you come back to neutral. Now you notice on this one, this is called a mystery shifter. They called it a mystery shifter because it was a mystery how it shifted. Actually, that's neutral right there. That's all the farther that shifter works in neutral to grab the other one. And it's heavy spring loaded. Right there. That's neutral. Good Lord. You can see right there, that's neutral. That's all the farther that shifter moves in neutral. And it's actually spring loaded with a heavy spring down inside of here. So to lock this in, there's first gear. Now when you're power shifting this, you just pull it to you a little bit, slam it down to second. Now to put it into third, all you got to do is push it forward. It's spring loaded to go right into third. You don't have to do the H. It just wham, knocks it right into third. And there's fourth, direct drive right there. Now you notice I didn't talk about reverse because this one right here, that plate, this leg is actually reverse leg. If you pull this plate out, it'll go farther over. You'll be able to pull this farther over so that rod goes across, catches this leg, this linkage leg right here, and then it'll move just like these. But this one's been locked out. It's actually locked out so you can run it as a 3-speed. But on my car, the way I'm setting it up, I'm going to have reverse, but this shifter is only for my forward gears. This is an old school racing trick. So I don't have in my H pattern, in the shift pattern, only forward gears. To put it in reverse, I'll put it in neutral. There it is. Good God. Put it in neutral. And there. I'll have a separate shifter for reverse. All it does is just shortens up your H pattern. So that shifter is only for forward gears. Once you're in forward gears, that's all you got on that H pattern. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no reverse. You don't have to push it over, or you don't get excited and accidentally grab for reverse by pushing it over too far. You can't because it's not there. But to put it in reverse, all I got to do is put the main one in neutral, and reach up and grab that shifter and give it a yank back, and it'll go into reverse. Anyway, that's an old drag racer trip. That's the difference there. In my opinion, the old school ones that mount like that, way stronger than the ball and internals. But there's a lot of maintenance you have to do with these, with the linkages and everything. Everything's got to be tight. You got to make sure all your bushings are good and tight and everything. So there's a little bit more you got to think about, and a little more you got to get in there and make sure that they're not loose as a goose. But that's all part of these hot rods. You know, that's all about building a car like this, is tinkering with them and how to get more and more out of them. The T5 is actually more accurate. Yes, once that's in gear, that's in gear. There is no slop because as I showed you on that other shifter there, that pin is down into that shift tube, shift rod, and there is no linkages, there's no bushings, there's no slop. It's bang, bang, in, out, in, out. Very accurate, but they're delicate because of that ball that's on there. So, depending on how you want to run them, and my biggest advice is always preload before you launch them. If you want to think about it as if all you've ever had is an automatic, if you pull up to a line and you don't preload, what you're basically doing is taking your automatic transmission, stick it in neutral, take it to 4 grand, and then slam that sucker down into first gear. Yeah, they call that a neutral drop. Sidestepping the clutch without preloading your drivetrain, you're basically doing a neutral drop with, or I guess you'd call it a clutch drop, but it works out the same. You're basically doing a neutral drop if you don't preload. But if you preload it, like I said, I got 2.5 years out of a rear end that should have only lasted the first run, and it probably should have detonated that first run. So it's all in how you do it, it's all in what you're doing it for, and always keep it in your mind, just like Uncle Tony said, that you're gonna break stuff. Anytime you push a vehicle to these limits and you're trying to get performance out of this stuff, you're gonna break stuff. You're not gonna get 200,000 miles out of a hot rod. And you don't really want to. Where's the fun in that? You want to get in there and tinker with it and make it better. You want to break it and find those weak links so you can make that part stronger. That's all part of being a hot rodder. All right, I hope that helps, and it helps you get out there and get some metal hot. And in the meantime, go over there and check out Uncle Tony's videos. There's a couple more guys that are popping up videos about this same subject. And it is fun, because it puts all of the control of the vehicle into the palm of your hand, and that's where it needs to be. Not those sloppy automatics that everybody can drive. What's the fun in that? You want something that you can drive. We'll catch you on the next one.